My premiums this year will be $560,000. All of that money would have been flowing through the books of someone else's bank. But who co-owns the life insurance company? Say, I do. Okay, where do you want your money to flow? If you and I co-owned a Loblaws together, would we ever buy our food at Walmart? Of course not. We would want all that financial energy flowing back to our system, not to anyone else's. Everything begins with the way that you think. I'd like you to help me with this exercise. Fill in the blank for me. I think positive. Think and grow rich. It's one thing to say these things, it's a whole other thing to actually develop the ability to rethink your thinking. And the fact of the matter is that most people would rather die than think. Now, are you all ready to think differently? Okay, whoever's laughing there, you're amazing. I think you're definitely ready to think differently. Now, let me ask you this question. How many of you in this room, show of hands, it's tough to see with these lights, but just give me a yeah if you've read this book. Wow, okay, that's a good portion. How many of you have not? Give me a no. Well, you've got an opportunity. I'm here to tell you, this particular book, the reason why you want to read it is because it works. The process of becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept, is something that I have been teaching Canadians coast to coast for the past 15 years. In your life, if you think about, how many of you have had someone who's mentored you? Have you had someone who's been generous with their time and their wisdom and their knowledge and they've helped you? I want to introduce you to a few of mine. And so Lewis, he said that you need to get clear on what exactly it is that you want, and then you need to find the people to support you in getting it. And this is our Ascendant team, many of whom you've met out in the booth. How many of you have been out to the booth? Give me a yeah. All right, good. Nice people? Yeah, we have an amazing team. I give them all the credit. Many of them are here with us today. Many of them are actively working today to support this event and all the great things that I'm going to talk to you about here. We've also got an amazing podcast. It's a financial podcast, and it's actually entertaining. It's actually informative. We talk to people all the time who tell us, who say, you know what, we've been stalking you for months. We've been just consuming all of your content, listening to all your episodes, and we've begun to rethink our thinking. That's the objective. We're also on the YouTubes. How many people like surfing the YouTubes? That's where you go to learn. And so the channel, Banker's Vault, is a channel that you will want to subscribe to. We post content to that channel every single day. There's over 500 videos, just amazing content and resources that you can consume 24/7. And it's to educate you, the gold standard of education, on the process of becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept. I want to share that after 15 years of serving Canadians, we've learned a lot and we've heard a lot of frequently asked questions. And we're going to cover so many great things today. But I do want to share with you something that I'm super proud of. Our team, from one of Canada's, in fact, Canada's largest mutually owned life insurance carriers, our team has been named #1 overall across Canada for the past 8 consecutive years in a row. And that doesn't happen haphazardly. We've served thousands upon thousands of people coast to coast, and we've just launched our affiliate, our sister company in the United States named LifeEva, and we commenced operations there in January of 2023. How many of you like Uncle Google? On Uncle Google, we've got 740 plus 5-star Google reviews. We've had folks like Greg who have said that I love the team environment that Ascendant Financial has fostered, one of the best companies I have worked with. Tammy says that Ascendant Financial has a fantastic team of professionals. I would recommend Ascendant to anyone who's ready to deal with money in a whole new way. In a whole new way. And Rowan said, they have committed countless hours and resources to help me. I'm very positive. They're incredibly passionate and a caring team. You cannot achieve anything of significance alone. You need a team to help you through that. And I want to talk to you a bit about how this all came to be. I believe that each and every one of you in this room deserves a lifetime of no regret. And I'll take you back to September of 2006. And it was about 7 o'clock in the evening. I was in Sherwood Park, Alberta, which is a bedroom community just outside the city of Edmonton. And I was standing in this cold, dark, empty living room, and I was staring out at a sold sign on the front lawn. And I was thinking to myself, how was it possible that I ended up here after doing all the right things financially? My first marriage ended. I was on the brink of financial ruin, owned multiple doors as a real estate investor, and was literally on the brink of losing everything. I saved money in RSPs, I set money aside. I was doing everything that mainstream financial advisors were telling me to do. And so I was standing there thinking, how on earth could I have ended up here if I was doing everything right financially? And I'll tell you, there are many stressful things that you're going to experience throughout your lifetime, and I had a number of those experiences thrown at me in a very compressed window of time of just a few years. After my marriage ended, my parents passed away prematurely, and just when I had thought that I had hit rock bottom, I remember something that my late father used to say to me all the time. He used to say, Jayson, don't ever be found guilty of giving up on yourself. And so just when I thought that I had hit that rock bottom, I decided in that moment that I wasn't going to give up on myself. And a good friend of mine, Matt, in the US, I had lived and worked in the United States. A good friend of mine, Matt, had reached out to me and he said, hey, we're going to this conference. This was in July of 2008, fast forward a few years later. And Matt said, hey, I want you to come down to this conference. We're going to learn about this, becoming your own banker. I said, what on earth is that? He said, you got to get down here. Come spend a few days and learn. And Matt was a very successful entrepreneur, still is to this day, and success leaves clues. I didn't have the money to go, but I was definitely determined. I was determined to find answers. I was determined to turn things around. And so I went, I attended. I was one of 2 Canadians in a room much like this. And once I learned what becoming your own banker was, what the infinite banking concept was, I believed that everybody in Canada needed to hear this message. And once I began to implement that with my beautiful wife, Rebecca, 4 children came along in very short order. And we do not rely on a commercial bank for anything other than the convenience of debit. And we don't have to worry about the stomach-churning ups and downs of stock markets. We don't have to worry about real estate cycles. We don't have to worry about what's happening in the economy. We don't have to worry about political turmoil or what's happening with tax rates. Our net worth goes up every single day. I believe that financial control should be in your hands, not the banks, definitely not the government, and not some temperamental market. And so with the short time that we have here together, I'm going to share a lot of wealth hacks with you as it relates to this. And I'm going to invite you to bring me the energy, because the more energy you bring me, the more I'm going to bring you. Is that fair enough? All right. Yeah. Let's try that again. Is that fair enough? Okay. Isn't that good? Now, this is the home that I grew up in Timmins, Ontario. This home brings back a lot of painful memories for me. In the early 1980s, do you all remember what happened with inflation? It skyrocketed. And my parents, they knew a lot about how to argue about money. They didn't know a lot about how to multiply it and how to keep it in the family. They didn't have anybody to mentor them. And as a young toddler, my sister and I, my older sister, she's a year older than me, that was a very painful experience watching mom and dad argue about money all the time. The one memory that sticks out the most for me was in the early 1980s, and I'll never forget my mom opening an envelope and bursting into tears, and I'll never forget the logo on that envelope, and it was the National Bank, that big red logo. And my mom was crying, and she handed the note to my dad. And my dad read it, my dad got upset, and my mom looked at my sister and I, because we were obviously upset and wondering, why is mom crying? Why is she so upset? And she asked, what kind of Christmas gift is this? And it was a foreclosure notice to say, listen, you got to get the mortgage payments current or you're going to lose the home. Since I began my journey 15 years ago, I'm dedicated to serving Canadians and soon to be Americans, especially families with children, because I never want to see a family go through what my sister and I had to endure. And I'm here to tell you that if I can achieve what's been done and what we're going to get done, anybody in this room can do the same. You just have to never be found guilty of giving up on yourself. All these companies that you see here are a result of the process of becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept. This represents a portion of the companies in the Lowe family group of companies. These businesses collectively that you see on the screen here will do more than $30 million of profitable revenue next year. And we gainfully employ people. We give people profit sharing. We give them opportunities to grow and create abundance in their lives. Isn't that good? Here's another mentor of mine, the late Nelson Nash. He wrote the book titled Becoming Your Own Banker. And if you haven't read that, as I mentioned earlier, boy, you've got an opportunity. This book absolutely changed my life. And it can change yours too. It's a 92-page read. It'll take you less than an afternoon to get through. And if you read it with an open mind, it's going to open your eyes to a whole new financial world. Nelson owed $500,000 in mortgage debt in 1980. Do you remember what happened in 1981? So prime rate was 8% at the time. I've never met anybody who's a prime customer of the bank. He was paying 1.5 points above prime, 9.5% on $500,000 in mortgage debt because he was very actively involved in real estate. He was reading all these books about real estate. And he said, you know, none of these gurus ever talked about real estate. All they ever talked about was leverage, OPM. But none of those gurus ever talked about what happens when the interest rate lever goes the other way. And boy, did it ever go the other way. And I did some quick math to bring this into reference in today's dollars. That would be $1.6 million in real estate debt. That would be $155,000 a year in interest payments alone. And then in 1981 to 1982, tack on another $221,000 a year in interest payments alone. That's $370,000, $221,000 of which Nelson wasn't expecting to pay. And so people expressed to Nelson, why don't you just sell the real estate? And he said, what kind of fool is going to buy that real estate from me when they have to finance it at such a high rate of interest? What he didn't realize is that he had the solution to the problem. He just had to rethink his thinking. Nelson had already piled up a number of dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance policies. He had already accumulated a pool of financial value that he controlled. He didn't realize that that was the solution to his problem. He could borrow money from the life insurance companies at 6 to 8% on demand and on his terms. I say that again, on his terms. With policy loans, you control the repayment schedule, nobody else. It took him 13 years to get rid of those snakes and dragons. He could have filed for bankruptcy. One of his joint venture partners was a very prominent attorney in the city of Birmingham, and that joint venture partner filed an assignment in bankruptcy. That was Nelson's right to do as well. He decided not to. He dug himself out of that mess, and from that point forward, him and his wife, Mary, did not see a commercial bank for anything other than the convenience of debit. And Nelson sadly passed away in March of 2019. I commissioned a documentary film on him that you can view at nelsonnashfilm.com. Again, that's nelsonnashfilm.com. There's no cost to view it. It's a labor of love and gratitude to him. Dan Sullivan. Anybody know Dan Sullivan, strategic coach? Yeah. Dan Sullivan founded Strategic Coach. He's been coaching entrepreneurs for the past 47 plus years. I've been in Dan Sullivan's 10X Ambition program and now the Free Zone program since October of 2018. And Dan said something to me in October of 2018 that I'll never forget. He said, your eyes only see and your ears only hear what your brain is looking for. Then he went on to say, you control all three elements, your past, your present, and your future. If you want to build a future that's bigger than your past, be careful what you bring with you from the past. And be careful what you feed each one of those elements, your past, present, and future, because you control them all. That helped me to rethink my thinking. And then for all the entrepreneurs in the room, he went on to say, once you begin to think collaboratively versus thinking competitively, collaboration opportunities begin to appear everywhere. Anybody know Joe Polish? Yeah, okay, all right. If you don't, you should. Joe Polish founded the Genius Network. This is Joe and I on stage at the Genius Network annual event. And Joe wrote the book titled, What's in It for Them? And he shared something about his philosophy with me in the very beginning of our relationship that is permanently etched in stone, and that is life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. And if you ever set out to develop collaborative relationships, make deposits into that relationship before ever requesting withdrawal. The more deposits you make into that relationship, the more value that you create, the better. For all of you in this room, your income, regardless of the source, your income is a direct result of the value that you're creating for others. And so if you want more income, guess what you need to do? Create more value for others. All right, so my goal here today in our small amount of time together, I want to share a solution to a problem. And I want to have a big financial impact on you and your family. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right. Okay, now we want to create confidence as well. How do I create confidence in you? I can't do that. What I can do is instill, but I can't create that. That's up to you. To create confidence where there was once uncertainty, to shatter confusion, and to replace it with clarity. I'm going to give you my A-level best today. I promise you that. And I have faith that you're going to take action on what I share with you. And in return, I'm going to ask you for your best thinking. Is it okay to move forward with this agreement? Hey, come on now. Don't just nod or say it to yourself. Prove it with a powerful yes. God, I feel like a mosquito in a nudist colony. I know exactly what I need to do, but I don't know where to start. Nelson said to me that unless you understand the problem, the solution just won't matter to you. And Dan Sullivan went on to say that the problem is never the problem. The problem is how you think about the problem. So let's review a few problems. Lack of access to and control over capital. You're doing all the work to earn your income, and everyone else is getting all your money. And even if you're investing in rental real estate, regardless of your source of income, all of that money ends up flowing through the books of someone else's bank. I want you to think about something. Money has got to flow. What is the human body mostly comprised of? Water. And if you were to look at a globe, and you took a look at the Pacific Ocean and then took a look at the Indian Ocean, there's no difference between the two. What happens? How do clouds form? You understand how clouds form? Wind currents move those clouds. That precipitates back down to earth in the form of sleet, hail, rain, snow. And somewhere along the line, a portion of that flows through you and me, doesn't it? And where does it all end up? Right back in those rivers, streams, lakes, and oceans. It's the very same thing with money. Money flows through the banking system. It's inconsequential that there are many different institutions and many different currencies. There's only one pool of money on the planet. And somewhere along the line, a portion of that flows through your hands and mine. But where does it all end up? Right back in the banking system. Is that a problem? Do you want to solve that problem? Ask yourself this question. This is a question that is going to be the most important of the day. Who is the banker in your life today? Here's problem number 2. You're all going to die someday. And when that day comes, and it will come, would you believe that Revenue Canada accepts no substitutes for money? There are 2 certainties in life. Any idea what they are? Death and taxes. The only thing that doesn't get worse every time politicians meet is death. Now, your problems have price tags, lost opportunity cost, and taxes while you're alive and when you die. And someday, somebody's going to have to pay the price tag of that problem. You either pay up or you give up. This is lost opportunity cost. How many of you pay cash for things? Okay, 7 hands went up in the room. For those of you who pay cash for things, I want you to think about how much interest you get to earn on that spent money for the rest of your lifetime and for every generation that comes after you. The answer is 0. That's lost opportunity cost. When you request a policy loan from the life insurance company that you co-own, the insurance company will lend you that capital on demand on your terms. All of your money stays inside the policies, growing every single day uninterrupted. Who's controlling lost opportunity costs now? Add up all the money that you've spent up to this point in your lifetime. Could you write me a check for that amount of money right now? Of course you can't, because you've transferred all that money away from you. It's gone. We've got all the money flowing back to our family banking system. We have 67 dividend-paying participating whole life insurance contracts in our family banking system. All of the companies, leaders that you see here on that group that I showed you, I won't go into business with somebody unless I can insure them. All of my 4 kids have 6 policies on their lives already. My oldest is 14. My premiums this year will be $560,000. All of that money would have been flowing through the books of someone else's bank. But who co-owns the life insurance company? Say, I do. Okay, where do you want your money to flow? If you and I co-owned a Loblaws together, would we ever buy our food at Walmart? Of course not. We would want all that financial energy flowing back to our system, not to anyone else's. Now, you're going to need the use of money for the remainder of your lifetime. So become your own banker and keep that money in your family. Here's some basic understandings. You finance everything that you buy. You either pay interest to someone else to access their pile of money, or you give up the opportunity that your cash could have earned otherwise for the rest of your lifetime and for every generation that comes after you. Someone has to perform the banking function in your life. There are no exceptions, and that someone should be you. Your money must reside somewhere. You can and should become your own banker. Here's something that's really important to understand. In Canada, we have a deemed disposition rule. What that means is when you die, not if, but when you die, the moment that you die, you are deemed to have disposed of all of your capital property at fair market value at the moment of your death. That includes the cottage on the lake, the stock that you own, the shares that you own in your company, your coin collection, your mutual funds, your RSPs. All of that capital property is deemed to have been disposed at fair market value at the moment of your death. Even though there's been no actual disposition or sale, that's what happens. And if you don't have liquidity in your estate, you've got to sell assets at fire sale prices to pay the bill. So someone's going to have to pay the bill. When you become your own banker and you have dividend-paying participating whole life insurance policies, tax-free windfall of death benefit shows up exactly when it's needed the most. That's my definition of the best investment, one that pays the most when it's needed the most. Now, does anybody in this room know what the tax rates and the calculation of that tax is going to be for the rest of your lifetime? Of course not. And not knowing is not an option to plan with. If you've got taxable savings and assets, you have a problem, and so do your beneficiaries. And guess who caused that problem? You did. And especially if you've been doing everything right. You're working hard, you're saving money. It's not your fault. Let's see what the solution is. Let's do some wealth hacks. Intentionally build a pool of capital inside of an entity that contractually guarantees daily growth. I say that again, daily growth, ready access to cash, on demand, on your terms. How many of you in this room do not want that? Say aye. Oh, thank goodness nobody said aye. It's never happened, by the way. Number 2, recapture the interest, the money that you pay to banks, to finance companies, for all those things that you need to purchase throughout your lifetime. All right, number 3, protect real estate portfolios, investments, retirement accounts, balances, and everything you worked your butt off for from being decimated at the highest levels of taxation. Build a pool of capital where? Dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance. There you go. Nothing new. It's been around in Canada for 176 years. The life carriers that we work with have never failed to produce a divisible surplus or declare and pay dividends to their policy owners. How many events have happened in the past 176 years? COVID, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, 34 recessions, the tech bubble bursting, H1N1, SARS, the list goes on and on and on. Yet these carriers are profitable year in, year out, decade out, century in, century out. They're the most financially solvent institutions on the planet. If you can put your money inside of an entity that is contractually guaranteed to grow every single day that you age, and is contractually guaranteed to give you access to cash when you need it on demand on your terms, and is contractually guaranteed to pay out a death benefit, and you're accumulating cash value, cannot go backward. If the stock market goes down, your cash value goes up. If the economy recedes, your cash value goes up. If the real estate bubble bursts, your cash values go up. If you have all these attributes and you understand that your money must reside somewhere, that's a truth, your money must reside somewhere, how much capital do you not want residing there? Remember, we all agreed to think differently today, didn't we? Because when you think about dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance, you think about dying. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to die to win. You got to be utilizing this while you're alive. And the tax exemption for dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance is the single biggest exemption that exists in the tax code today. It also fixes a lot of money problems and creates wealth, tax-free wealth. How many of you like tax-free? Give me yes. All right. As tax rates increase, tax-free becomes instantly more valuable. And tax-free is always the best source of money. Recapturing the interest, the money that you pay to banks. How do you do that? I want to talk to you about the grocery store business. How many of you got the can of peas? You got the can of peas? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write this down, and then I want you to read R. Nelson Nash's book, Don't Steal the Peas. I just want you to remember that once you understand the grocery store example from R. Nelson Nash's book, I promise you it will change your life. Protect what you built from being decimated at the highest levels of taxation. The longer you wait, the more you penalize yourself. And who's more at risk? You are. Along with everyone else who's even the least bit effective at accumulating wealth. Do you believe the government's going to need more or less money in the future? Where do you think they're going to get it from? Right. And to build wealth, you've got to reckon with tax risk and market risk, and dividend-paying, participating whole life addresses both of these risks. Here's what's in it for you. Get up and leave when this doesn't resonate with you, okay? You get contractually guaranteed daily growth and certainty of access to cash. You become a co-owner of the life insurance company, and you share in the divisible profit. Dividends can't be repossessed or lose value. Cash values cannot go backward, and they grow every single day. Your total cash value must equal your total death benefit by age 100. It's a contractual guarantee. And the death benefit keeps going up every year. The cash values keep going up every day. Eliminate your tax risks. You've got zero taxation on the daily accrual of cash. You've got zero taxation on the death benefit. Zero taxation on annual dividends when they're chunked back into the policy to purchase paid-up additions. It's exempt from the passive investment income tax rules. You can be positioned to never pay tax on the cash that you access during your lifetime. So would you sleep easier at night if you knew that your money was no longer subjected to these risks? All right. Now, your family's also going to have a problem when you die, and they inherit mostly taxable assets and funds. They've got to get to cash quickly. We do a liquidity test with our clients, and we're shocked to find that most clients have liquidity of less than 5% in their estate. It's absurd. All you've got to do is take your net worth and look at all your assets and figure out which assets can be converted into cash quickly without triggering tax and without losing property value. There are always expenses after death, and your registered investment accounts and other taxable assets are the last thing that you want to be dipping into to take care of that. Make a list of all those assets, in other words, less the liabilities, your net worth, then code all that property as liquid or illiquid. Liquid meaning you can turn it into cash quickly without triggering tax and without reducing its value. Divide your liquid assets into your estate value. That is your liquidity. So now we've got a liquidity issue. How can dividend-paying, participating whole life insurance help? You get tax-free money for your beneficiaries, so they never have to liquidate assets that trigger tax. Isn't that good? And you don't have to reduce the value of the estate in order to generate the money that's needed when it's needed the most. You get tax-free money for your beneficiaries, so you don't have to withdraw amounts in excess of the minimum required distributions from retirement income funds. That will keep their income taxes lower. You can create an insured retirement solution and have ever-increasing death benefit protection, all contractually guaranteed. It can also be a pension alternative. This will keep your income taxes lower. Isn't that good? And your corporation can pay for it And it provides massive tax advantages. You can turn your entire estate value into a tax-free transfer for the next generation. Now look, money solves a lot of problems. Family, and it's not usually your children, it's who they marry. Dividend-paying participating whole life insurance bypasses probate and the will. You avoid legal problems, will contests, and other expensive arguments. Here's the strategy. Grow your pool of capital inside of a dividend-paying participating whole life policy or a system of policies. Use it while you're alive to implement the process of becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept. Don't steal the peas. Now, remove all that uncertainty of what future tax hikes can do to your savings. Now, here are some frequently asked questions. If the exemption for this is so good, won't the government take it away? This solves a social problem because the government doesn't understand what I'm sharing with you right now. When the government thinks of life insurance, they think of what? Living or dying. Why do we have so many exemptions available to us and credits in the tax code to donate money to charity? Because the government's broke. They want you to do that. So when you die, they want tax-free death benefits showing up so your family doesn't have to rely upon any social programs. What if you don't qualify? You don't have to be the life that's insured. I own policies on all my kids, all our key people in our businesses, my spouse, my sister-in-law, my sister, and so many more. 67 policies in our system. How can the life insurance companies do this? Don't worry about them. They've been around 176 years, the most financially solvent institutions on the planet. They're doing just fine. Why doesn't everybody do this? Those who understand it, do it. Who do you think the largest purchasers of dividend-paying participating whole life insurance contracts are? The banks and the wealthy. Now, why would the banks and the wealthy be the largest purchasers of these contracts? They're either really stupid and generating a lot of wealth, or they know something that you and I don't. Which one do you think it is? It's the latter. You can change that, and you don't have to be rich to do this. We have clients that put in $100 a month. We have clients that put in 6 figures a month. If you're somewhere in between those two numbers, we can help you. Which is better, saving money inside of insert whatever product here, or a dividend-paying whole life insurance contract? It's not an either or, it's an as well as. Here are the most common mistakes. Not understanding the problem. Unless you understand the problem, the solution that I'm describing just won't matter to you. Thinking of it as a cost and not a tool to build your warehouse of wealth. Trying to pay the lowest amount for the least amount of time. When you understand this, you're going to want to pay the most amount for the most amount of time, because the more capital you put in, the more capital you get out. Not understanding what the benefits are, not knowing that it's tax-free. Here's a question for you. Why would the government place restrictions on how much money can go into something like this? Because it's bad? Because it might offer some advantages that shield you from onerous taxation. How much of your capital do you want shielded from that? When you accumulate capital inside of a company that you co-own, an asset that can't lose value, is guaranteed to grow daily, has all the tax advantages you could ask for and then some, how much of your capital do you not want residing there? I ask you that again. So think of this in terms of building a system rather than just one policy. Tax and market risk are silent killers of wealth, and dividend-paying participating whole life insurance eliminates both of those risks. It can and should be utilized during your lifetime. You can contribute almost unlimited sums, $560,000 in premium going in this year. Without increasing your income, you get access to cash, ready access to cash. And when you have ready access capital, opportunities will hunt you down. Does anybody know Simon Sinek? And he says, start with why and ensure that your family and friends do as well. Otherwise, all you're going to remember is what you purchased, not why you're doing this. And most advisors out there do not have this level of training. So be careful. We recognize that while you may not choose to do this with us, we would hope that you implement this and you do it with a professional who can demonstrate to you that they're doing this themselves. Planning coordination is crucial, and we have all that expertise on our team. And many people are only one tiny little excuse away from making financial progress in their life. And most people let procrastination cheat them out of great big leaps of progress. Our clients are not most people. We have $1.1 billion of death benefit in force, 40 million and growing daily of cash value. And remember, the cash value has to match the death benefit by age 100. So are we creating a lot of wealth? Yeah. Think of yourself as a client. In fact, you can be right next to me. Many of you took pics of me today. But you can insert yourself right there, and you can become a client. Our coaching, our mentoring, Erwin and Cherry can speak to this. Erwin, Cherry, can we get you up on the stage and the whole Ascendant team? Come on up. Here's what we're going to do. We want to be givers today. And what I want to share with all of you, the Hamilton Basket Brigade. How many of you have children? Okay. How many of you won't raise your hand no matter what question I ask? Let's try this. How many of you have parents who raise children? Okay, good. Now, here's what we're going to do. For everyone who registers for this webinar, it is free, and we normally do events as pay what you want, and then we take the proceeds and donate it. Well, what we're going to do today is for everybody who enrolls, and we can make a big impact here together as a group right now. Do you want to make a big impact? Say yes. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to donate $5 to the Hamilton Basket Brigade for every person in this room who registers and attends the webinar. That gives us the potential of donating $3,500 to feed families, to provide much-needed clothing, spiritual support, help for people in need. Can we help some people in need today? If you can attend a free webinar, yeah, let's do it. Give a big round of applause. I want to shine a bright light on my teammates. For all you leaders out there, get your team up here. Shine a bright light on them. They deserve all the credit. I'm just up here trying to make you laugh. I'm Jayson Lowe, everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I love you, Toronto. Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.